Okay, guys, welcome to today's chat. And we've got always a vivaciously lovely Osvaldo. Thank you. And also the delicious Chelsey Jean. I've got a couple of people joining in today. Just going to let some people into the room. But today we're talking about thriving or surviving and how you can start to fuel your success through nutrition. And this is a really big one. Don't you agree, guys?
Yes, massive.
And really, we've all got very different perspectives on this. But to be fair, it's very much aligned. We've all got different perspectives in terms of what we do and where we come from. I'm just going to turn my light on because I realise I look dark. My face is incredibly red, PS. So I had platelet-rich plasma yesterday, so I'm all glowing.
You're just glowing, beautiful, Loz.
Apparently, and it doesn't help that I'm wearing a pink shirt, which makes me look even more pink. But food, food is thy medicine.
Yeah.
And thy medicine is thy food. That I use the word thy far too frequently in that. But who is that? Is that we got somebody else. We got Joan coming in. But before we continue, though, just some quick introductions. So if you are joining us for the first time today, welcome. If you are watching this on replay, thank you very much. Please leave a comment below so we know that you've watched it. You can use the hashtag replay, and that way we know that you have watched it. And please, any questions while we're here, if you are live, you can use the chat and ask questions or raise your hand to ask a question. But my name's Loz. I'm a healthy habit coach, and I help busy people learn how to improve their eating, their breathing, their sleeping, their moving, and their hydrating so that they can unlock unstoppable performance, focus, and confidence, which is super important because when we want to be happy, healthy, and vital, those 5 habits matter heaps. There's not really any point in trying to do all of this extra stuff. Hi, Joan. Thanks for the comment. Not trying to do all of this extra stuff like journaling and affirmations and hot and cold therapies and blah, 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 blah. If you are eating terribly, if you are not moving effectively, if your breathing is poor because your posture sucks, if you're not getting enough sleep and you're not drinking enough water. So that's me. And we've also got here Chelsey Jean, who on my screen is to my left.
Hi, everybody. Yes, my name's Chelsey Jean, lymphatic queen. I'm all about rubbing boobs for better life, right? I think we're getting straight to the point of everything in this, in today's episode. I can feel that we've got a lot to get through, and my main goal is to help people remove the toxicity out of their body, and that's through the lymphatic system and teaching you how to brush your body in the correct sequence and stop putting the crap in that allows us to thrive. Yeah, so over to you, Oz.
Hi, how are you, everybody? Yes, my name is Dr. Oz. I'm a peak performance and integrative clinician here in Springfield, Queensland, and I help women to get rid or improve chronic pain. And actually today I have a lot of interesting data in terms of food and skipping meals and the things. So hopefully you stay all till the end because it's going to be really interesting today.
That's exciting. That's exciting. And I love that you're here because you are the data guy. You are the guy that loves all of the factual information. And that's why we come together every single week. Because ultimately, I'm just going to fix my microphone. Sorry. I feel like it's like in the way and being annoying. We're here to empower you and supercharge you to start creating your own stories moving forward. When it comes to your energy and your well-being, a lot of the time we get stuck in patterns and we get stuck in belief systems. And in this day and age, I think there's a lot more awareness just in regards to what you can actually do to empower yourself to have a more happy, healthy, and vital life. And so from all of our individual perspectives, from lymphatic systems to, toxicity and, habit coaching, we all bring a very unique perspective. But today's topic is food. And I'm very excited about this because this is something that a lot of people talk about, and most of us are aware of somebody that is on a diet. of some sort that has some sort of official name. And we all know that person that has been on and off diets most of their life and struggles constantly, on that roller coaster, that yo-yo of I'm on a diet and then I get these results and then I lose weight or whatever and I get this thing and then they revert back to the way that they were eating before. And I guess it's really confusing, right, guys, because there's so much information out there about all of these different ways that you can eat. But ultimately, using nutrition to your advantage and understanding the power of food and in a very simple way, I think is something that a lot of the media has overlooked. I feel like in general, it's very complicated for people because they read something about a way to eat or that something is bad for them. And then they see something else on TV that says something completely contradictory to that. Then they speak to their friend who's just tried the latest pill and potion or injection to help them achieve a goal. And then that person's going, oh, well, that's so confusing. I don't really know what to do. And so I just won't do anything, or I'll go in one direction. And, just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you, right?
That's right.
So Oz, would you want to kick off? Do you want to kick off with this conversation? Or do you want to leave it to the end with your exciting...
I can leave that part to the end. I just want to give a concept here that I think most of the people have it wrong. And I'm talking also about practitioners, and is the concept of diet and nutrition. They're two completely different things. Diet is what we eat. Nutrition is what we absorb. Not necessarily eating healthy means that you're getting all the nutrients that you need. It depends on many situations. It depends on what type of food are you eating, how often are you eating. It depends with many other things like sleeping, your hydration, your level of activity, etc., etc. So I get a lot of people always coming saying, I have a healthy diet. Healthy diet, I usually tell you, it's not healthy, it's clean. One thing is to have a clean diet, another thing is to have a healthy diet. Healthy diet, to me, is eating clean, plus adding some nutrients that we need. That is usually in the form of supplements, because nowadays the food that we eat, the salad that you have on your plate is not necessarily full of nutrients, mostly because we have all these pesticides, hormones, and things that they're putting on all this food that takes away all the nutrients. And also the soil is not the same what is today than what it was 50 or 80 years ago. So
I love that you brought that up, because I think a lot of people, they go, oh, I don't need supplementation because I eat healthy, as you said, this quote unquote healthy. And they don't realize that trace minerals and things like selenium and molybdenum and other types of things, like we just don't get it from our food, guys. Now it's very, very hard unless you are, growing everything and you are bioorganic farming and you are doing it all yourself and you know exactly what it is in your soil and you spend that time, like chances are you are deficient in some regard, right?
Yeah. And the thing with that is that most people think that a supplement is a vitamin, and not necessarily. Yeah, like actually I don't prescribe multivitamins, never in my life. I prescribe supplements because that the name says it's supplements, supplying something. Yeah. You just need vitamins if you have a blood test and you are deficient on vitamin B or vitamin D or whatever. But supplements are completely different. And it's difficult, like there's not many tests that you can do that are actually going to tell you how deficient you are on one or another supplement. So symptoms are the main thing that will tell us if you are deficient or not on supplements. And losing weight, how people come and say, I lose weight, and then it comes back, or I do this diet and then it works for a few months and then I have to change, is because of that. It's because of the lack of nutrients on that diet.
And nutrients are a really important factor, guys. And when we think about nutrient dense food, normally this is the stuff that people suck at eating the most. It's easy to have a burger and prepackaged food because it's convenient, right? And everybody these days is busy. So you've got to realize, though, like when we're talking about food and nutrient-dense food, like nutrient-dense food, example, very colored leafy green vegetables, you can tell the level of nutrition that's going to be inside a food based on the fact that it's colored. But, it's got to be from nature as well. I mean, a bright green frog lolly is not quite the same as some highly nutritious bok choy or spinach or kale, or do you know, so, you know, and I think people, they don't even understand the basic qualities of food, actually. And I love that you talk about nutrients, Oz, because nutrients are so fundamental, and people become highly reliant on a lot of synthetic vitamins, because the vitamin industry and I guess the supplement industry as a whole is a huge industry. It's worth a lot of money globally. And so by preying on people's vulnerability and misinformation, you know, people think that they're taking stuff that's helping them, but most of the time, you just got very expensive wheat.
When did we lose our relationship with food? Like when did that go out the window? That food was the number one thing. Like when did we hand that over to these big corporations and the GM, the poison that's sprayed and all? When did we hand that over? So, you know, to me, it's about taking this back and saying, hey, what can I do? Everyone's got a yard or some pots or some different things where they can grow their own greens and do something. So to me, it's about getting that relationship back with food and what's going in to your body, and taking full responsibility of what you're actually doing. And, you know, yes, if you're going to do the wrong thing, you are going to suffer. So why just stop now? Like, just please get that relationship back through a couple of easy steps. It doesn't have to be hard. And yeah, so I'm on a little bit of a rampage today about the poisons that are in our food, and how we can not just go, oh yeah, oh well, that's just the way it is. No, like, take some responsibility, guys, and let's start to make a difference with what we're eating. And, you know, in clinic here, just what Loz and Oz are talking about is 50 years ago, you could eat a spinach and get 50 different minerals and vitamins and everything out of it. Today, you've got to eat 50 spinaches and you're still not going to get what your body needs. Our body doesn't have, like, now all the foods that's been genetically modified and sprayed, all of our mitochondria, like inside, it doesn't know how to deal with a lot of that mess that we're putting in. So to me, we need to clean it up. So
and I think I love what you said about you know, when did we lose touch with what food is? And that's what today's conversation is really about, encompassing, like, are we surviving? Are we just hanging on by imagination, or are we actually thriving? And we know, as people who are working with people in this space, most people are just surviving, right? Because people have lost touch with food. And what I love is that concept, and I have this conversation all the time with people. You know, we look at a supermarket. So back in the 60s, you used to have your little corner shop, and you used to have your I mean, even where I live, we used to have a fruit and veg place. And that guy that used to work there, that owned the place, he would go to the farmers markets every single day, early in the morning, and he'd find the best produce and he'd bring it into his shop and he'd sell it to the public, right? But then, as an example, Woolworths moved in directly next door to him, put him out of business. They were selling apples out of season, which they freeze for a long period of time. They lose some of their nutritional value. And he basically went out of business after being in business for many, many decades. And and then so when you look at a supermarket, we've got all of these aisles, right? We have one aisle that's called the health food aisle. So what the hell is everything else if it's not health food?
Exactly.
And I always like to use the example, you know, educating people about food, because I guess a lot of what I do is educating people in a very basic way about what are the properties of food that we need to understand. So I teach people about what fat, protein, and carbs are. And I think a lot of people, just even thinking about those really basic things of macronutrients, they don't even understand. A lot of people don't understand the basic stuff. Our bodies only really understand carbs, fats, and proteins. They don't understand things like calories. And people get really hung up on this calorific stuff. You know, how many calories do I need to have? People don't realize what a calorie actually is. You've got a device called a bomb calorimeter, and it is a closed circuit, and its job is to measure how much energy it takes. I think it's to heat a liter of water by 1 degree or something. Is that, and that's what a calorie is. Now, when we transfer that to the human body, okay, there's a couple of problems with that. The first thing is the human body is not a closed circuit. We have an in and we have an out. Our bodies understand food in terms of carbs, fats, and proteins, macronutrients. It also understands in terms of things like fiber, water, vitamins, and minerals. So when you look at that as a basic thing, calories don't really make a lot of sense. Yet, when we look at the way food is marketed to us and packaged to us, they use a lot of clever marketing. They'll make claims about food, especially when you're buying pre-prepared food. You know, they'll say water is gluten-free. And you go, oh, this is healthy. Or that broccoli is vegan. Well, of course it is.
Zero sugar.
Right. But I call that
100%.
And I call that greenwashing. So they do a lot of greenwashing or what we call the health halo effect. So they use a lot of this peripheral language and colors and claims about things. And then people get very confused. But you can always tell somebody's nutritional quality of what they eat by how they actually shop. So if they are going to go to a supermarket, for example, do they shop up and down every single aisle, or do they shop around the perimeter? Because if you shop around the perimeter of a supermarket, chances are you are getting more fresh produce. I mean, if you can't grow stuff yourself, and a lot of people have little blocks now, they don't have gardens, it doesn't mean you can't grow some basic stuff. But if you really don't have a green thumb, there are many ways to educate yourself about how to use sort of food out there to your advantage, and recognizing some of the properties of food and just getting your head around what it is that they actually put on the food. In a supermarket situation, for example, when they're buying stuff in bulk and they're paying farmers very minimal amounts of their food, they have to keep that food preserved for a long period of time. And that's why, understanding, about spraying of food and why it's important to wash your food and how to care for your food. A lot of what I educate people around is actually how to care and prepare your food. And I think when people can gain a better understanding of that, they're gonna realize that probably they are deficient in some way of nutrients, and they're going to understand the importance of taking things like supplements, and that they can't out-exercise a suboptimal diet. A lot of people, when they're trying to get healthy, go straight to the exercise part. But if you are not fueling yourself effectively, if you are nutritionally deficient in all the things that you require to get your body to run at its best, and you are trying to exercise and flog it and create all of this external stress, how do you think you're going to feel?
Exactly.
Pretty shit. Yeah. And then you'll give up. Then you'll give up on stuff. And so this is really basic information, guys. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I think as a government, and as I guess the government, which is run by, anyway, we can talk about that another time. But the reality is that you cannot trust or rely on the government and these authorities at large to educate you. This is up to you to educate yourself. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And not even, you cannot even rely on doctors to do that, because doctors give you just 5 minutes consultation, and it's not enough time they don't spend time on talking. They just tell you, eat healthy. Again, we go to the same point, what is healthy? I want to touch a very sensitive point that Chelsey brought to the table, and is your relationship with food. So there are 3 ways you can see food. There's 3 ways people see food. As fuel or energy, as medicine, or as a social activity. 90% of the people sees food as a social activity. 9% as fuel, just 1% as medicine.
That's interesting.
So, which is really, really crazy. Like, we're talking that your pharmacy should be your market. That should be your pharmacy, not the one where you get all the drugs. That should be your pharmacy. You should have your fridge full of vegetables. And every time you feel a little bit down on energy, you should go there and get some vegetables to get that energy back. So that's a relationship that you should think about when you're talking about food. What type of relationship you want to have with your food? Is your food, do you really need food as your social activity? You don't. You can go to a party, you can go somewhere with your friends. You don't have to eat all the rubbish that is on the table.
Doesn't have to be a reward. Food doesn't have to be a reward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Use this as a fuel. You feel you're running, what is the main reason? The main thing people complain about most of the time is lack of energy. Well, why do you think you have lack of energy? It's because of the lack of nutrients in your body, because of the lack of food, because of the lack of fluids and the things. So eat some food, eat some real healthy food. And this is other numbers that I want, the other number I want to bring to the topic today is most people, when they want to lose weight, what they do? They stop eating. Because that's the mentality or the logic behind this is the less I eat, the less weight I put on. Well, yes, the less you eat unhealthy things, yes, but not the less you eat in terms of amount of quality food.
Or calories, in fact. People do those calorie limiting types of exercises where they go on like 800 calories a day, right? Yeah. Which is why it's dangerous to be talking about calories instead of talking about nutrition.
Yeah. So in this case, I was doing my own research. I have one of these breathing metabolic device, and I was checking for people who not talking about intermittent fasting. I don't want to get into that conversation yet. That could be maybe another topic later on.
Agree.
I have a lot of things to say about that. But let's say just people who skip a meal because you are busy, because you forgot to eat, because because you're doing many things and you forget that you have to eat. And people thinking, oh, because I'm not eating, I'm going to reduce some fat. Well, by measuring your metabolism, what I have seen with most people, and I did the experiment on myself multiple times, is that it takes at least 9 to 12 hours of you not eating absolutely anything for your body to start burning some fat. By the time your body starts burning some fat, you are exhausted, you are moody, you are desperate to eat something, and you can concentrate if you are working or something like that. So skipping meals is not an answer to lose weight to start with, and is not an answer to be healthy.
I love that Christian just had a surprise reaction.
I thought it was like, oh, this is boring.
No, it was like, oh my God.
And I love that you brought that up, Oz, because it is such a mistake that people make. The number of people that go, oh, I've just reduced my calories down to blah, 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 or I'm fasting. Fasting, if you are not primed in a position to fast, fasting has many benefits. Do you agree? Like in the right circumstances.
Yeah, I agree. In the right circumstances, it does. Yep. We've got a lot of cancer patients.
Pew.
Very small number of people fasting is effective for. And there's a lot of research that shows that, in certain situations, fasting can promote things like autophagy, which is, cleaning out your cells. But if you are not getting enough nutrition, or you're in a position where your body's compromised because you've got toxicity, you've got inflammation, blah, 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 which is pretty much the majority of the population, chances are fasting is not going to be an effective tool for you to become more healthy and optimized, right?
Yeah.
So Christian's actually got a question. So if I have fatty liver, what is the best practice to burn fat from it? Great question. Thanks for asking.
So fatty liver. Look, most of the people will have fatty liver at some stage in their life. I won't be too concerned about that. I'm more concerned about visceral fat. Visceral fat is the one that can kill you. Like fatty liver, like, as I say, with age, we get, like, I'm sure most of us have a little bit of a fraction of fatty liver. Yes, the thing is you don't want to add more to the equation. How do you don't add more to the equation? Again, you just go to an anti-inflammatory diet, which is what we have been saying here all the time. Put a lot of green things on your plate.
So, sorry, Oz, can you just explain to people what visceral fat is? Because I think some people might be listening going, I don't know what that is.
Okay, yes. Visceral fat. We have two types of fat. The subcutaneous fat and the visceral fat. And the subcutaneous fat is the one that you don't like to see because it's the one that comes out of your body, and you say is the one that most people is concerned about because it doesn't make you look very nice. Visceral fat is the one that you can't see, which is inside, which is where the organs are, and is the one that can cause you heart attacks, chronic disease, etc., etc., etc. So that's the one that you want to avoid. How you avoid that one is just with diet, exercise, sleeping well, reducing the levels of stress, just the basic 5 things that Loss usually talks about. So by doing those 5 things, there are 5, right?
Yeah, 5. Eat, breathe, sleep, move, hydrate.
Yeah. So by doing those 5 things, you reduce that visceral fat. You don't have to do anything like we get to the same point of, okay, do you have a deficiency in terms of nutrition? Maybe, almost sure, yes. Maybe omega-3 is low, maybe polyphenols are low. By adding those things to your diet, that will reduce also the visceral fat.
And there's so many other benefits to that as well. So I think the moral to this is that the more holistic you can get with the way that you eat and the more focus you put on actually what's you're putting into your body in terms of the fuel, the better you're going to feel all over. Like you'll find that by eating better and being more conscious. And I think the first thing is being conscious of the fact that you can improve what you're eating and being honest with yourself to go, you know what, like I'm probably not eating that great. I'm probably, skipping meals. I'm eating too many carbohydrates. My body is showing symptoms of dis-ease in some way, whether that's poor skin, tiredness, pain, inflammation. Your body will give you symptoms, guys. When you can recognize that that's actually what's going on, then you can make a decision to start doing something about it. And I think the biggest challenge is people just don't recognize it and they're not interested in acknowledging the fact that they feel like crap. And it's been normalized. I think socially as well, we have a culture that has normalized just a feeling of bleh. I just feel a bit bleh. And I think most people walk around these days with brain fog and bad skin and, they don't not really encourage you to do anything about it. But once you can start to focus on that and then you can start to prioritize putting the right stuff in your body, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about making little incremental changes. So, for example, if you're consistently not eating breakfast, probably not great if you're feeling like crap. Probably the first thing, and I would suggest this as a habit coach, is just getting yourself into the habit of eating breakfast. You don't have to think about the content of what you're eating at this point. I think the most important thing is getting the eating frequency improved, because that's a really easy change for you to make. And once you start eating more frequently, you'll start to notice some changes. You'll start to feel a little bit more energized. You're not going to probably get that 2 or 3 p.m. slump in the afternoon where you're reaching for the things that everybody reaches for, which is very high carb, sweet normally, or calorific dense foods to give them an energy boost. So I need an energy boost or coffee. And once you've started getting that eating frequency in place, then it's going, okay, so the content of what I'm eating now, how can I make some little tweaks in terms of my carbs, my fats, my proteins? What does my plate look like? If I look at my plate and I break it up into 3, 1 part being carbs, 1 part being fats, 1 part being protein, how do I just start to change those ratios a little bit? Because chances are, if you're in Australia, you're following the standard Australian diet. And I use this all the time. When we abbreviate that down, what does that say? Sad. You're eating very sad. So probably if you're following the standard Australian diet, you're eating a lot of very processed carbohydrates. Majority of what you're eating is probably processed carbs, not eating enough protein or not eating enough frequently, not eating frequently enough, and not eating enough fat because you've been scared of fat because, everyone says that fat, it makes you fat, which it does not. So when you start to recognize that the ratios of what you're eating are a bit not as optimized as they could be, all you have to do is, if you're eating at the frequency now, we just start to shift your plate. So we just reduce the amount of those processed carbohydrates. We start to slowly replace those with more natural things. I use this as an example. Try and avoid reading like the star label, like the little star system on food. So Weet-Bix, example, have 5-star health rating. I'm sorry, but where in nature are you going to find a perfectly formed rectangular brick of dehydrated wheat?
That sticks to the bowl. So if you eat your plate, right, when you finish eating your Weet-Bix, if you have it sitting like on the bowl, it will just get stuck on your bowl. And then you've got to soak it to try
disgusting.
Right.
And then we have that with milk. And people have that with milk, and sometimes they put sugar on it. So you can see where I'm going with this. So what would be better is for breakfast, for example, if you're going to start eating breakfast, steering away from things like Weet-Bix and processed things, and maybe going to something, if you do like, if you do like to have a hot breakfast, doing things like eggs and tomatoes and spinach and mushrooms and capsicum, making yourself an omelette. If you don't want to do something savory, if you prefer something sweet, learning how to make yourself like a protein smoothie, using like low carbohydrate vegetables and low carb fruits if you need a fruit, very minimal. And then adding protein powder and having a source of protein. Protein is so important. And people don't realize, like, metabolically, protein is one of the most important components that most people aren't getting enough of. And when we get older as well, a lot of people aren't eating enough protein, or, you know, they don't even understand what protein is. So there's a lot to unpack, guys. But yeah, I guess if you can start to recognize that maybe you'd like to improve the way that your life feels, the reality is things like fatty liver disease and other types of disease, you'll find that just by making these small shifts to your diet, sometimes it can have a profound effect on a lot of those other things.
Just a quick parenthesis on what you just said about the protein powder, because there's this is just my understanding, okay? I could be wrong, but this is the way I practice protein powder, because if you see again, you don't have to know how to read labels, but if you see the protein powder has at least, we're talking about 18 to 20 something grams of protein. Most people, if you don't exercise, you don't need that amount of protein in one meal, and it could be too much. So what I do, for example, in my case, that I exercise every day, but I don't do weight training, or I don't have big muscles, I just put half of the scoop of the protein powder. Okay, to me that's very important, because when I was starting on this, I was putting the whole scoop, and I could see that I was gaining weight, not muscle, weight, and that's because I wasn't using all that protein. Because on top of that, I eat my meat and my chicken and my other sources of protein, of animal protein. So be careful with the powder, because if you don't exercise that much and you don't have that many muscles, like we're talking Lost, she had muscles. She exercises every day. She put weights, and how much you carry? Like 200 and something kilos?
Oh, nearly 200, yeah.
Yeah, I carry 10. So that's the difference. Yes. So that's the difference between she and me. So she can have the whole scoop. I can have just half of that scoop. Okay. So just
I think that's a really great point. And think about what people don't realize is that too much carbohydrates. So when you eat carbohydrates or excess protein, it increases a hormone release called insulin. So insulin is coming from the pancreas. And a lot of people don't know like insulin unless they've got diabetes, because they talk to their doctor and the doctor's like, no, insulin level's fine. And clearly it's not, because they've got a big waistline. But yes, excess protein. I love that you brought that up. Excess protein is actually counterproductive for you as well. I always suggest when people are choosing a protein powder, because most of the protein powders on the market are terrible. They've got a lot of ingredients. They've got like 10 to 15 ingredients. They're full of carbohydrates. They're more like mass gainers, which is why you said you put on all this weight and it wasn't muscle. In terms of like what I recommend to people is that their protein has about 13, like their powder has about 13 grams per serve. I wouldn't go more than that. And so if your protein has more than that, you can then manipulate the amount that you take. So if one serve is like 30 grams of protein, you can probably have a third of a scoop. And that way if you are using it as like a breakfast in a meal replacement that you're creating for yourself, you're not overdoing the protein. And I think that's a really valid point. And a lot of people, they don't know, but part of the education process is actually teaching people how to read labels as well, and how to understand what they need to look for in terms of like their carbs, their fats, their proteins, and also things like hidden sugars, hidden ingredients that don't make sense, where legally they don't have to list something as like a carbohydrate or a sugar when it's a sugar alcohol, things like non-nutritive sweeteners. And I think that's a whole different conversation, because you're getting quite deep into like understanding ingredients. But essentially, guys, it's up to you. Empower yourself to start making better choices. Encourage your family to start reviewing the way that they're eating. Go to the farmers markets if you can. Go and support your local small business that's selling fresh produce. Fresh is best, right?
So I just wanted to add to that, guys, pretend I was on the phone to Dr. Cornet this morning and talking about this, and she tells her patients, pretend you're on a farm stay, and then you can only eat the food from a farm stay. So whatever grows, and like they have animals there for protein, but it's whatever grows on a farm, a lot of people need to pretend need to go to get their head somewhere to go, okay, I'm on a farm stay and I'm going around with my trolley. What could I put in my trolley if I'm on a farm stay? So that's one thing that she tells her clients. The second point is when it comes to protein powders and choosing food, we do a hair test. We make sure that we're testing our clients before we give out any diet, because some might not be able to have like a pea protein, or might be better with, with a different type of plant-based protein, or whether, it's a whey protein. So it's not only, it's choosing those foods that, that are healthy, but they have to be foods that resonate and work well with you. So a lot of people like to be given a list of foods that they can then take to the supermarket and then pick out your fat, your protein, and your carbohydrates from their list of things. So just to make it simple, is I think where we need to go with this, to form a better relationship back with food.
And worst case, if you're not the kind of person that's able or in a position to be able to invest in testing, because all of us, I mean, Oz and Chelsey both do testing, it's just using basic principles and rules about shopping around the perimeter of the shopping center of the supermarket, choosing fresh where you can, or frozen if you can't. Like if you can't do fresh, I get it. But sometimes frozen vegetables are going to be better than chips.
Yes.
To fill up your plate. So just really basic stuff. And it's just about one foot in front of the other, guys. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make some tiny changes. You'll be surprised at the magnitude of those tiny changes when they start adding up, the profound effect that will have on the way that you feel, the way that you look, and your future longevity.
We are what we eat.
We sure are.
We are what's left over. Like we we eat it and then we poo it. So we are what's left over, right? Is what makes our bodies.
I love that. I love that. And Oz, do you have any sort of closing remarks?
No, just again, as we have been saying all this time, like
I do.
That relationship with your food, okay? It doesn't have to be a relationship of just going out and having fun. You can have fun eating healthy. And actually, you will have more fun when you eat healthy. I have so many patients that just by changing their diet, they come and say, I didn't know that just by eating more regular and eating healthy, all my symptoms are almost gone. I say, yes.
Right. And then it's small changes.
And once you try feeling good, believe me, you don't want to go back to feel bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nothing tastes as good as healthy feels, right?
Setting
So just
setting rules.
Relationship with your food is your friend, is your medicine, is your fuel, is your energy. Yeah.
Bump it up to the top of the list, guys.
Don't ask, why is this guy so strong? How is this guy so healthy? Well, maybe because he's doing something that you're not doing. And that starts with your food.
And empower yourself with the information, guys. I mean, ultimately, you have a choice. You can leave this chat today and be like, well, that was overwhelming and I don't want to do anything about it. Or, you can speak to one of us. We all are very passionate about this stuff. I do food education programs. I have lots of little coaching programs that are offered to people, highly affordable, very accessible. Chelsey, they do hair testing and other types of things. Oz does some very, very amazing tests that will blow your mind away. When it comes to this sort of stuff, looking at a different level. Yeah, he's got his neo rhythm there. Both Oz and I are very passionate biohackers. So we also always like to look at ways that we can utilize technology to help improve our biometric data. So that's the stuff that you can't see. And Chelsey, when it comes to healthy living, she's very, very motivated to help people live their best lives as a naturopath. Teaching people about their lymphatic system and all of this stuff matters, right? Like if you are eating poorly, your lymphatic system isn't going to be working. You're not going to be working. But Chelsey, you had something to say.
Yeah, one fact. In 1 teaspoon of soil, of healthy soil, there are more organisms than what there are people on Earth.
That's nuts.
Right? How amazing. Yeah. How amazing. So back to our healthy soil. And then maybe we need to talk about gut health, because this is really hard to eat healthy if you've got critters in your belly saying, feed me sugar.
Yeah, and I would love to do a whole talk on that actually, because I think as a subject, talking about the microbiome and people don't understand they've got more bacteria in their gut than they do cells in their body, right? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, and everything matters, right? And so if you are struggling with cravings and things like that, you might have a what we call dysbiosis, so like a poor ratio of good versus bad bacteria. So I think that actually warrants, like, maybe we can talk about that next week.
Yeah, let's do that next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Well, it's been great catching up and having a really in-depth conversation. Once again, thank you so much for joining us if you are here live with us. Appreciate your questions. Actually, Joan says, we are what we eat. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Joan. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Before
we go, I just want to say a quick thank you and hello to Christian. I know him maybe from more than 20 years. Like, I think I met him when he was 10 years old.
Wow.
So I think he was at around that age. I don't remember very well.
Christian's going, yep, that's me.
Thank you for being here.
What a great story.
Mexico, so thank you very much for being here.
And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate your attendance every week. And if this is at a time that doesn't work for you, please watch it on replay. We always love to bring you the best information that we can bring for you guys to inform you and empower you to create better decisions for yourselves, your loved ones, and your future. Please tune in again next week, same time, same place. Remember, if you are watching this on replay, please pop in the comments, #replay, and then we can see who's been watching. And please, any questions you've got, if you do have any topics that you'd like us to cover, you can let us know. This is going to be in the Boob Camp Facebook group that Chelsey has put together, but also you will be able to find versions of this on various platforms. I put this on my YouTube channel, and Oz puts this on his podcast audio version. But thanks again, guys. Look after yourselves and each other, and ciao for now.
Thank you.
Yeah.